Chapter 944. Lu Ming wouldn't let go of such an opportunity to take his life while he was down. While rushing out, Lu Ming directly released his dragon force and approached Jin Kai in a few breaths. "Who is it?" Jin Kai was alarmed. He suddenly looked toward Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming's palm struck towards Jin Kai's head. Lu Ming had exerted all his strength in this palm strike, which could split a mountain. Jin Kai never expected that there would be someone else here. In a hurry, he raised his arm to block. Boom! Jin Kai's body was sent flying far away as he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Looks like you're seriously injured." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Previously, seeing how Luo Tian was so afraid of Jin Kai, it could be seen that Jin Kai's strength was extremely terrifying. He was definitely not weaker than Luo Tian and might even be stronger. But now, he was sent flying by Lu Ming's palm strike. It could be seen that Jin Kai was seriously injured in the cave. Furthermore, his body was covered in poison gas and his strength was greatly weakened. "Brat, you dare to sneak attack me? You're courting death." Jin Kai was instantly enraged as he retreated. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Lu Ming. Looking at him, Jin Kai's eyes widened as he exclaimed, "Lu Ming, you're Lu Ming?" Lu Ming wasn't in disguise, so Jin Kai naturally recognized him. "Kill." Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He took large strides forward and charged towards Jin Kai. "Don't think that you can kill me just because I'm injured. The one who will die today is you. I'll be able to obtain the Flood Dragon Sovereign's reward after killing you." Jin Kai's voice was cold as a powerful golden light erupted from his body as he charged towards Lu Ming. Boom! The two exchanged a blow. Lu Ming's figure swayed and stood still, but Jin Kai kept retreating. "You're not my opponent now." Lu Ming didn't care about defense as he crazily attacked Jin Kai. Every punch and every palm contained the power of millions of Jins, suppressing everything as they rained down on Jin Kai. Moreover, many of the attacks were aimed at the bead above Jin Kai's head. Boom! Boom! The golden pool erupted, colliding with Lu Ming's attacks continuously. Bang! After dozens of moves, the bead on top of Jin Kai's head was shattered by Lu Ming's fist. The bead shattered, and even more poison gas rushed towards Jin Kai. Jin Kai's face turned even more green. "Damn it!" Jin Kai let out a sharp cry and transformed into her true form. She was a golden Luon. Of course, she wasn't a pure-blooded golden Luon. She had over 60% of the golden Luon's bloodline. With a dragon's roar, Lu Ming used bloodline fusion to transform into 9 dragons and continued to attack. Jin Kai constantly coughed up blood. His golden body was covered with a thick layer of green poison gas that was becoming denser and denser. Jin Kai struggled, wanting to rush out, but was firmly entangled by Lu Ming. The longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for Jin Kai. Jin Kai's eyes were already filled with panic. In the blink of an eye, dozens of moves had passed. Poochie. The 9 dragon claws clawed at Jin Kai's body and tore off a large chunk of flesh. Golden feathers fluttered in the air as Jin Kai let out a miserable shriek. Bang! 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps were used. 6 steps in a row, a violent attack poured down on Jin Kai's body, smashing him into the ground and creating a large crater. Bang! The 9 dragons descended and used their claws to grab Jin Kai's wings. Blood splattered everywhere as Jin Kai's wings were torn off. Jin Kai let out a heart-wrenching scream. He no longer had the arrogant attitude he had before. What was left was only fear and embarrassment. He was terrified. He could feel death approaching. Boom! The dragon claws clawed down once again, and a violent energy blasted into Jin Kai's body, scattering his demonic energy. "No, don't kill me. Spare me." Jin Kai screamed. He didn't want to die. The 9 dragons clawed at Jin Kai's neck and looked at him with cold eyes. "Weren't you high and mighty before? You were domineering and didn't even blink when you took someone else's things. Your biggest mistake was that you couldn't bear to use it. When you came out of the cave, you directly swallowed a few drops of life water. Your injuries would have healed immediately. I'm not your opponent. Unfortunately, you couldn't bear to waste the life water." Hee hee. Lu Ming sneered again and again. Jin Kai's eyes widened. "You're one of the 4? That's right," Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, spare me. I'll give you whatever you want. I still have a lot of treasures in my storage ring, including the life water. I can return them all to you as long as you let me go. Jin Kai begged loudly. Spare you? Wait until your injuries are healed before coming to kill me? Am I that stupid? What's more, after I kill you, won't your treasures be mine? Lu Ming sneered. No, don't kill me. I swear, I will never take revenge on you, Jin Kai screamed. But before he could finish his words, Lu Ming suddenly exerted his strength and waved his dragon claw, killing Jin Kai. A demon clan genius who was comparable to the top 10 of the list of top 1000 talents died just like that. He died with great reluctance. Devouring power erupted, devouring all of Jin Kai's blood essence and taking away his storage ring. Glancing at the storage ring, Lin Fan saw 2 jade bottles, and within the bottles were life water. Lu Ming was delighted. He put away the storage ring and looked at the cave. There was a creature in the cave. How was it after fighting with Jin Kai for such a long time? Lu Ming speculated that the creature in the cave wouldn't be much stronger than Jin Kai, otherwise, Jin Kai wouldn't have dared to attack it again and again. It wouldn't be much stronger than Jin Kai. If Jin Kai was injured, the creature couldn't be unharmed. Perhaps it was an opportunity. Could it be that the totem pole is in this cave? Otherwise, why would Jin Kai fight so hard? Lu Ming's heart burned at the thought of the totem pole. Lu Ming carefully approached the cave. The cave was very large, and there was a faint light coming from inside. Lu Ming slowly walked in and looked inside. Inside, there was a huge cave. Behind the cave, there was another cave. The light was coming from that cave. There was a huge colorful crab in that cave. The crab was taller than a human just by lying there. However, there were many wounds on the crab's body, and blood was still flowing out of them. It seemed that this was the crab that had fought with Jin Kai. However, this crab wasn't much better than Jin Kai. Its aura was weak, and it was obviously seriously injured. Lu Ming's fingers began to move in the air, and he began to inscribe an array. He was very fast. His fingers moved like lightning in the air, and endless inscriptions disappeared into the space. Squeak squeak, the crab obviously felt the fluctuations and raised its head. When it saw Lu Ming, it let out a sharp sound, then got up and crawled towards Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. The array in the air glowed, condensing into arrows that shot towards the crab. The crab waved its tail and blocked all the arrows. Chapter 945. Unfortunately, Lu Ming was not afraid of the poisonous gas. He rushed over and started a battle with the giant crab. This giant crab was very powerful. It was definitely not weaker than Jin Kai. In fact, it was slightly stronger. However, most of the giant crab's power came from its poisonous gas. To others, this was a fatal threat. However, to Lu Ming, it could be ignored. Moreover, the giant crab was heavily injured and its strength was greatly weakened. As a result, Lu Ming still had the upper hand. However, even if Lu Ming had the upper hand, it would still be very difficult for him to kill the giant crab. In the cave, explosions continued. Lu Ming did his best to fight with the giant crab. After a few hundred moves, Lu Ming finally killed the giant crab. However, Lu Ming himself had also suffered serious injuries and was severely injured. Lu Ming took out a jade bottle that contained the life water. He poured out 2 drops and swallowed them. At the same time, he took out a pile of ores and let the 9 dragons' bloodline devour them. Lu Ming's injuries recovered at an astonishing speed. In just a few minutes, his injuries were completely healed. The life water is really amazing, Lu Ming thought to himself. Soon, Lu Ming's true yuan was fully recovered. He looked at the cave that was emitting light. Was the totem pole inside? Lu Ming carefully walked over and stepped into the cave. This was a tunnel. The light came from the front. The tunnel was more than 100 meters long. After going through the tunnel, Lu Ming came to another huge cave. Lu Ming was very surprised when he came to this cave. This was because there was not a trace of poisonous gas in this cave. Instead, it was filled with rich heaven and earth spirit chi. Even the heaven and earth spirit chi was filled with heaven and earth origin chi. This chi was exactly the same as the one in the ores. It was called origin chi. This cave and the Sky Poison Island were simply two different worlds. That is. Suddenly, he was shocked to see a burly figure sitting cross-legged in a corner of the cave. That figure was clearly a three-eyed god. However, this three-eyed god looked very old. Its scales had fallen off, and its two sharp horns were dim and full of lethargy. However, there was still a faint aura of life on its body. Beside this three-eyed god, there were many skeletons. The bones were thick and solid. At a glance, one could tell that they were the skeletons of the three-eyed god. At this time, the three-eyed god suddenly opened its eyes and looked at Lu Ming. 20 years have passed. You humans have come again. An old voice came out of the three-eyed god's mouth. Lu Ming looked at this three-eyed god with a serious expression on his face. This three-eyed divine member seemed to be very old and seemed to be nearing the end of his life. His aura was very weak and did not pose a threat to Lu Ming. Lu Ming then felt at ease. Human youth. What's wrong? Are you still afraid of a dying man like me? The old three-eyed divine race being said. Why are you here? Lu Ming asked. According to what he knew, the three-eyed god race could not enter some of the ruins here. They would die if they entered. Moreover, the Sky Poison Island was one of the 9 great forbidden lands. How did the three-eyed god race enter? Could it be that the three-eyed god race could enter the Sky Poison Island? Haha, how did I enter? Do you think that I wanted to enter and was forced to do so? This world does not allow existences above the spiritual god realm. We are just training targets for you humans. The three-eyed god let out a deep roar. What do you know? Lu Ming's eyes moved. He had always felt that there was a powerful existence behind all of this. The War of Providence was like a training ground for them. Who was the one controlling everything behind the scenes? Do you want to know? I can tell you. The three-eyed god said in a deep voice. Lu Ming did not speak. He listened quietly and remained cautious. Although the three-eyed god race's aura was weak, Lu Ming still did not dare to be careless. According to the ancient records, the three-eyed god race is powerful and dominates the world. Outside of this world, you humans are just defeated opponents of the three-eyed god race. You are just my race's dogs. The three-eyed god race sneered. Lu Ming still did not speak. The three-eyed god race continued. In this world, a long time ago, the remnants of the human race captured a group of us three-eyed god race and placed them in this world for our race to reproduce. Then, they used them to nurture the human race's sky prides. They tried to nurture peerless sky prides to compete with us in the outside world. Hehe, what a fool's dream. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Where was the outside world that the three-eyed god race was talking about? It shouldn't be the world that Lu Ming was in. Could it be the heavenly realm? The three-eyed god race appeared on that small island in the heavenly realm and said that they wanted to attack the primordial realm. Could the War of Providence be controlled by the heavenly realm? In an instant, Lu Ming thought of many things. Therefore, in this world, there can't be any experts above the spirit god realm. As long as someone in my race breaks through to the spirit god realm, they will be suppressed or even killed. I was suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth when I was breaking through to the spirit god realm. I dragged my severely injured body and escaped here. So don't worry, I'm not a threat to you. The three-eyed god race continued. That's all? Lu Ming asked. That's all I know. It's been too long. Kid, I'm just struggling at death's door and suffering every day. Since I've said so much, come and kill me and set me free. The three-eyed god race sighed. Kill you? Lu Ming's eyes flickered. That's right. I'm dragging my injured body and suffering every day. I might as well die. How about you help me with this? The three-eyed god race said. Okay. Lu Ming's eyes flickered a few times, then he strode towards the three-eyed god race, condensed a spear in his hand, and aimed it at the three-eyed god race. At this moment, the three-eyed god race's lips curled into a sneer. In the next moment, a black shadow rushed out from the three-eyed god race's dantian and charged towards Lu Ming. I knew you would do this. Lu Ming sneered and retreated quickly. The mountain river diagram revolved around him as he threw a punch. The terrifying fist force blasted onto the shadow, causing it to let out a scream. Although it dispersed, It condensed again in the next moment and continued to charge towards Lu Ming. However, it was blocked by the mountain river diagram and was sent flying. That's a spirit god. Lu Ming's heart trembled. At this moment, he saw the appearance of the shadow clearly. It was actually a miniature three-eyed god race that looked almost the same as the three-eyed god race's elder. It was clearly a spirit god condensed by the three-eyed god race's elder. This three-eyed god race's elder had almost stepped into the spirit god realm. Unfortunately, it was suppressed. A half-formed spirit god that's about to dissipate and you want to kill me? Then I'll fulfill your wish and finish you off completely. Lu Ming took a step forward and continuously blasted out with his fists. Rays of fist light blasted towards the three-eyed god race's spirit god. Chapter 946. Bang! Bang! Fist lights blasted out incessantly, causing the spirit deity to become even weaker. If it was an ordinary domain enlightened spirit god, then Lu Ming would absolutely not be a match for the domain enlightened spirit god. However, this old man hadn't completely broken through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm when he was suppressed, and he could only be considered to be a half-domain enlightened spirit god. Moreover, he was heavily injured and extremely weak, so he was completely suppressed by Lu Ming. After a short while, the spirit deity shook and flew back into the old man's body. The old man roared furiously. "Don't even dream of obtaining the totem, I'll destroy it." As soon as he finished speaking, the old man's body suddenly moved, and he pounced towards a direction. Lu Ming swept the surroundings with his gaze, and he saw a stone pillar that was around 3 meters tall at the side of the cave. The stone pillar was inscribed with various patterns like dragons, phoenixes, tigers, and so on and so forth. That's the totem. Lu Ming was shocked in his heart. His attention was completely focused on the old man earlier, and he actually didn't notice the totem. Without the slightest hesitation, Lu Ming took a stride forward and arrived before the old man. A spear condensed in his hand before he pierced through the old man. Puci. The spear pierced through the old man's body and nailed him to the wall on the other side. I'm unwilling to accept this. My three-eyed god race will annihilate the human race sooner or later. The old man roared furiously and unwillingly, and then he stopped breathing. Lu Ming's expression was calm. He could understand the old man's unwillingness. He'd cultivated bitterly for his entire lifetime and was about to break through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm, yet he was suppressed. His lifetime of hard work had been wasted, and he could only hide in this cave and wait for his lifespan to be exhausted before he died of old age. However, they were of different races and were enemies, so Lu Ming didn't feel any pity for him. His gaze descended onto the stone pillar. Is this the totem pole? Lu Ming's purpose of coming here was to see it. Lu Ming walked over to the bottom of the totem, and then he hugged it with both hands and pulled forcefully, yet it actually didn't move at all. It's quite heavy. Lu Ming smiled lightly, and then he exerted his full strength. The true essence within his body erupted as he pulled forcefully. Rumble. The entire cave shook as Lu Ming slowly pulled out the totem pole. Rise. Lu Ming hollered. His muscles bulged and he exerted force on his waist. With a loud bang, the totem pole was uprooted. But at this time, the totem pole suddenly shone brightly. Over 10 jet-black rays of light suddenly burst out and flew towards Lu Ming's forehead. Not good. Lu Ming was shocked. The reason for that was because with a quick glance, he saw that the dozen or so rays of light were actually a dozen or so spiritual deities. They were all miniature versions of the three-eyed divine race. At this moment, Lu Ming's mind flashed back to the skeletons beside the old three-eyed god. Could it be that those skeletons belonged to the three-eyed divine race that was suppressed after breaking through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm and perished here? After they died, the spirit deity attached itself to the totem pole. I've been tricked. Just now, the old three-eyed god pretended to destroy the totem pole, but in fact, he was reminding Lu Ming that it was the totem pole. He was reminding Lu Ming to pull it out. Once the totem pole was pulled out, the spirit deities in the totem pole would attack Lu Ming. But at this moment, everything happened so suddenly that it was too late for Lu Ming to dodge. Whoosh! Whoosh! The dozen or so spirit deities directly rushed into Lu Ming's forehead and into his sea of consciousness. "Get out!" Lu Ming roared and closed his eyes. His mind also appeared in his sea of consciousness, condensing a figure in his sea of consciousness. The dozen or so spirit deities appeared in his sea of consciousness and emitted various powerful auras. "Kill." One of the spirit deities emitted a strong lightning aura. It seemed to have no intelligence as it directly charged towards Lu Ming. It was fast, extremely fast. What a strong concept of lightning. These spirit deities are completely condensed from energy and the concept of heaven and earth. Their original owner's consciousness has been destroyed, leaving only their instinct to kill humans. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He immediately simulated the suppressing hell-heaven skill and punched out. Boom. Lu Ming's body went numb and he was sent flying. His body almost dissipated. Kill. At this moment, another spirit deity turned into a fiery light. An incomparably rich concept of fire pervaded the air and charged towards Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming exchanged a blow with it. His body seemed to be burning as he was sent flying. Bursts of intense pain came from his body. These spirit deities wanted to obliterate Lu Ming's mind and spirit. If Lu Ming's spirit was destroyed, it would be equivalent to Lu Ming's death. Whoosh! A golden light cut through the boundless clouds in the sea of consciousness and slashed towards Lu Ming. Concept of gold. These spirit deities' concepts were all at the fourth level and were incomparably powerful. The fourth level of the concept of heaven and earth was the highest. These people had already grasped the highest level of concept. It was unknown how many times stronger it was than a third-level concept. Puff. Lu Ming's body was directly cut in half by the golden light. A sharp pain that penetrated into the soul came from Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body that was cut in half rapidly retreated and reformed in the distance. However, his face was very pale. In the sea of consciousness, his body was condensed by his mind. Even if it was cut in half, it could still reform. However, that sharp pain was real. His current situation was very dangerous. In the sea of consciousness, his body could indeed reform at will. However, once he couldn't bear the pain and his spirit dissipated, his body would no longer be able to reform. It would also mean that he had died. This was a test of his will. "My will is firm. How can I be destroyed by you?" Lu Ming growled. His eyes were incomparably firm. Whoosh, whoosh. Two spirit deities rushed towards Lu Ming. "Kill. In my sea of consciousness, let's see who will kill who." Lu Ming roared and rushed towards the few spirit deities. After a few moves, Lu Ming was still cut in half. However, he reformed in the distance. His will was firm and unmoved. He continued to fight. He displayed all his skills in the sea of consciousness and engaged in a great battle with more than a dozen spirit deities. His will was unwavering. No matter how great the pain was, he remained unmoved and fought with all his might. In the beginning, Lu Ming was completely at a disadvantage and almost didn't have the strength to fight back. However, the more Lu Ming fought, the braver he became. He became more and more accustomed to this kind of battle in the sea of consciousness. 10 days later, Lu Ming seriously injured a spirit deity with the concept of fire with a punch and broke his arm. The broken arm actually turned into the concept of fire and entered Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's comprehension of the concept of fire had increased a little. "It can be done like this. Then all of you will become my nourishment." Lu Ming's eyes emitted a bright light. His fighting spirit was high as he fought with these spirit deities. Time passed day by day. Lu Ming's body was still holding the totem pole. He stood motionless in the cave. His true dragon battle art was actually operating automatically. Like a vortex, it was absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and origin chi from the surroundings. His cultivation base was slowly rising. Chapter 947. Time flew by quickly. 1 month, 2 months. Lu Ming had no idea how much time had passed. What he knew was that he had been fighting with dozens of spirit gods. His willpower was incomparably firm. No matter how it was scattered, he could recover. He was as firm as a boulder, invincible. As for the dozen or so spirit deities, they were defeated and scattered by Lu Ming one after another. The amazing thing was that the conception of the spirit deities would be integrated into Lu Ming's concept runes. His mastery of a certain concept rune would be greatly enhanced. The dozens of spirit gods contained all kinds of conceptions. Boom. Boom. Unknowingly, there was only one spirit god left in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. This spirit god has comprehended the concept of earth. What a strong defense. Lu Ming was somewhat speechless. This spirit god used the concept of earth to protect his body like a tortoise shell and was the hardest to deal with. Lu Ming continued to fight with this spirit god. Slowly, 3 days passed. Finally, Lu Ming broke through the spirit god's defense and defeated the spirit god. Lu Ming felt that his concept of earth had also increased by a lot. Haha, that old three-eyed god originally wanted to harm me. Who would have thought that it would help me instead? My 4 kinds of conceptions have all increased by a large amount. Lu Ming laughed. With a thought, he returned to his body. He realized that he was still hugging the totem pole and standing there. I don't know how long I have fought with those spirit gods. It feels like a long time has passed. However, the battle of destiny shouldn't have ended. Otherwise, I would have been teleported out. Lu Ming thought to himself. Hey! My cultivation? Suddenly, Lu Ming's heart trembled violently. He sensed and instantly realized that the true origin in his body was surging violently. It was unbelievably strong and was much stronger than before. 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. This is the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Lu Ming was dumbstruck. His eyes revealed a look of disbelief. He had only destroyed dozens of spirit gods in his sea of consciousness, and his cultivation had actually increased by 3 levels. From the 4th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, he had stepped into the early stage of the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. This was simply inconceivable. Look at my concept. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, then he was overjoyed. His 3 concepts of wind, fire, and thunder had all reached the peak of the 3rd level. He was only 1 step away from the 3rd level of perfection. The concept of earth was slightly weaker, but it had also reached the late stage of level 3 greater mastery. The improvement was too great. How long has it been? My cultivation has increased by so much. This is too shocking. Lu Ming thought to himself. At the same time, he was incomparably happy. This was an opportunity, a great opportunity. What powerful strength. With my current combat strength, I could definitely kill Luo Tian easily if I met him before. Lu Ming felt the majestic energy in his body, and his eyes were filled with anticipation. Of course, this was referring to the Luo Tian of the past. It was unknown how much time had passed, and whether Luo Tian's cultivation had improved or not. There's something down there. At this time, Lu Ming noticed something strange under the totem pole. With a thought, the totem pole was put into his storage ring. At the place where the totem pole was uprooted, there was a pit. At the bottom of the pit, he could see a piece of metal with strange patterns on it. This piece of metal seemed to be very big. Only a part of it was exposed at the pit. The rest was covered by the rocks on the ground. Lu Ming pried open the rocks and discovered that this was not a piece of metal, but a huge metal box. Lu Ming took out the metal box. What was in this metal box? Lu Ming was curious and opened the metal box. Inside the metal box, there were 2 jade statues that were about the same height as humans. Yes, jade statues, as if they were carved out of huge jade. The jade statues emitted a shocking amount of life essence. Lu Ming's pupils shrank rapidly. He thought of a treasure, heaven and earth jade essence. Yes, these were not jade statues carved out of jade, but heaven and earth jade essence. Heaven and earth jade essence was said to be a kind of supreme jade. After countless years, it absorbed the essence of heaven and earth, and by chance, it gave birth to a kind of life form. If such a life form fully awakened its intelligence and matured, it would be extremely terrifying. Legend had it that a long time ago, a mature heaven and earth jade essence was born in the eastern wilderness. It was extremely terrifying and peerless. It could compete with martial emperors and was even stronger than them. It had once stirred up a storm of blood in the eastern wilderness. In the end, it was killed by an even stronger existence. It was extremely difficult for such a heaven and earth jade essence to mature completely. Once it matured, it would be invincible. However, a heaven and earth jade essence that had not matured and had not awakened its intelligence was a rare supreme treasure. It could really be described as rare in the world. That was because a heaven and earth jade essence could be combined with some other materials to refine a perfect physical body. If a spirit god expert was nearing the end of his lifespan, he could attach his spirit god to a physical body refined from a heaven and earth jade and live another life. How precious was that? Lu Ming actually obtained 2 here. Lu Ming's heart started thumping. At this moment, he thought of Supreme Nine Yang. If Supreme Nine Yang had this heaven and earth jade essence, he could completely reform his physical body and return to the world. That's great. At this moment, Lu Ming was extremely excited. He was 10 times, no, 100 times more excited than when he found out that his cultivation had improved greatly. Along the way, Supreme Nine Sons had helped him too much. His achievements today were all thanks to Supreme Nine Sons. Otherwise, he would still be a cripple from the Lu family of the Blazing Sun Empire's Windfire City. He might have been killed by others long ago. There was one thing that had always been on his mind. He wanted to find a treasure for Supreme Nine Yang to reform his physical body. Now, he had finally found it. Lu Ming took a deep breath and calmed his excited heart. There's another jade talisman. Lu Ming discovered a jade talisman beside the 2 heaven and earth jade essences. Lu Ming picked it up and took a look. He knew that it was a type of jade talisman that recorded a cultivation technique or something. Lu Ming scanned it with his mind and discovered that it was a secret technique. The twin life restriction. That was the name of the secret technique. What a strange name. Lu Ming began to read the contents. At one glance, Lu Ming was taken aback. He widened his eyes in shock. What a wonderful secret technique. What a strange secret technique. What a shocking secret technique. Lu Ming exclaimed. According to the records of the Forbidden Twin Lives technique, this secret technique was actually capable of turning one person into 2. Indeed, there was a huge difference between cultivating 2 people and cultivating clones in the legends. Using the heaven and earth jade essences as materials, one soul could be split into 2 and another person would be created. That person would become the second body and the main body would become the main body. This was completely different from a clone. Normally speaking, a clone could only have a portion of the main body's combat strength and could not cultivate. It would always be the same strength that it had when it was cultivated. However, the twin life restriction was different. The second body was basically the same as the main body, with the same strength and aura. It could even cultivate on its own and communicate with each other. This was terrifying. It was simply heaven-defying. This meant that there were 2 people cultivating. The only difference was that the second body had no consciousness. It was controlled by the main body and had no distracting thoughts. It could only focus on cultivation. This was even faster than the main body's cultivation. Moreover, if the main body died, the consciousness could be awakened in the second body. This was equivalent to having an extra life. How heaven-defying was this? Chapter 948. Moreover, the twin life restriction also had a success rate. If the first attempt was unsuccessful, the second attempt would be much more dangerous. Amazing, too amazing. No wonder there are 2 sets of heaven and earth jade essence here. They were prepared for the twin life restriction. Lu Ming was amazed. His heart palpitated with excitement. Anyone who saw such a heaven-defying secret technique would be tempted. Coincidentally, there are 2 sets of heaven and earth jade essence. One is for Senior Jiuyang, and the other is for me to cultivate the twin life restriction. If I don't succeed in the first attempt, then forget it. Lu Ming thought to himself. Then, he carefully closed the metal box and put it away. Naturally, such a secret technique could not be cultivated now. Other than the heaven and earth jade essence, other materials were needed, especially materials to nourish the soul. He could only cultivate it after the Battle of Providence was over. Let's look at the Book of Providence. With a thought, the Book of Providence appeared. Lu Ming discovered that his luck points had increased to more than 300,000. In other words, this trip to Sky Poison Island had increased his luck points by more than 200,000. This time, it was truly a great opportunity. 9 totem poles have appeared. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly narrowed. He realized that the Book of Providence had indicated that 9 totem poles had appeared. There was only 1 totem pole left before he could open the ancient city of Providence. It seems that quite a lot of time has passed. The Battle of Providence will probably end soon. Lu Ming estimated that he had stayed here for at least a few months. It's time to go out. After putting away the items, Lu Ming looked around. After confirming that there was nothing else, Lu Ming strode out. Walking out of the cave, the outside was still filled with dense poisonous gas. Lu Ming unleashed his devouring power and covered his body to resist the poisonous gas. Then, he strode out. After leaving the cave, Lu Ming's footsteps became faster and faster. He crossed thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. After a few thousand miles, poisonous insects began to appear. However, Lu Ming's cultivation had improved greatly, and his combat strength was much stronger than before. Naturally, he passed through them easily. Along the way, he found many spiritual herbs and picked them. Not long after, Lu Ming arrived at the heavenly Poison Island. On the surface of the lake, thick green poisonous gas floated. The poisonous gas would only dissipate once every 3 months. Obviously, it was not time for that yet. No, I can't wait any longer. If I'm still 10 days away from the Battle of Providence, I'll miss it if I stay here. If I rush out, the mountain and river diagram should be able to resist it, right? With a thought, Lu Ming entered the mountain and river diagram. There was only one mountain and river diagram floating in the air. Lu Ming was in the mountain-river diagram. He controlled the mountain-river diagram and flew toward the surface of the lake. Suddenly, the mountain-river diagram was surrounded by poisonous gas. Fortunately, the materials of the mountain and river diagram were extraordinary and of a very high grade. They successfully resisted the invasion of the poisonous gas. Soon, the mountain and river diagram crossed the lake and returned to the shore. Lu Ming emerged from the mountain and river diagram and put it away. Phew, I'm finally out. Let's go find Kai Shui and the others and see how long it is until the Battle of Providence ends. I wonder what happened during this time. With this thought in mind, Lu Ming turned into a streak of light and flew away. During this time, he sent a message to Bai Kai, Shui, Wen Yuzhong, and the others, but it did not go through. It seemed that the distance was too far. Lu Ming could only fly and search for them at the same time. After flying for an entire day, covering a distance of several million miles, Lu Ming did not run into a single person. Not only did he not run into a single person, he did not even run into the three-eyed divine tribe. Strange, something's not right. I've flown for several million miles, it's impossible that I didn't run into a single person. Lu Ming frowned, feeling that something was amiss. He returned to the place where Bai Kai, Shui, and the others had gathered. There was also no one there. Clearly, they had left long ago. I don't believe it. Let's go to the three-eyed divine tribe's royal city and capture a few of them to ask about the situation. With a thought, Lu Ming flew in the direction of the three-eyed divine tribe's royal city according to the map he had obtained from the three-eyed divine tribe. The three-eyed divine tribe's royal city was located at the center of this world. Lu Ming flew for an entire day before he reached the royal city's territory. Whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, there were 2 blood-red lights in front of him, shooting towards the north. Just as Lu Ming was about to chase after them, the 2 rays of light suddenly stopped and flew towards Lu Ming. The rays of light scattered and 2 young men appeared. The 2 young men were wearing blood-red robes and carrying long sabers on their backs. Their bodies emitted a powerful bloody saber intent. Could they be from the Heavenly Corpse sect? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He stared at the 2 young men without saying a word. Haha, there's someone from the Divine Wilderness continent here who dares to run around by himself. Let's kill him and his luck points will belong to us. A young man with a large mole on his chin looked coldly at Lu Ming. His luck points will belong to you and his storage ring will belong to me. The other young man spoke as if Lu Ming was dead for sure. Lu Ming's heart jolted as thoughts raced through his mind. They called me someone from the divine wilderness continent. People from the divine wilderness continent would never call me that. Could it be that these two aren't from the divine wilderness continent? But how is that possible? Lu Ming's heart was in turmoil. Since ancient times, the War of Providence had always been carried out in different places. The 5 large territories of the divine wilderness continent had fought separately and had never fought together. Furthermore, they were people from other continents overseas. Now, how could people from other continents appear? It seemed that something had happened outside while Lu Ming was on the Sky Poison Island. This kid isn't speaking. Could he be a mute? The young man with the mole on his chin sneered. Who cares? Let's just kill him. The other young man said. Where are you from? At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly spoke. Hihi, so you're not a mute. Since death is near, there's no harm in telling you. We're from the Bloodblade continent. Die, kid. The young man with the mole sneered as his blade intent soared into the sky. A blood-red blade aura that was 1,000 meters long slashed violently at Lu Ming. The two young men had extremely powerful auras, having reached the 5th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. If they had been before Lu Ming had entered the Sky Poison Island, they would have been ranked around 40 or 50 on the list of top 1,000 talents. Bam! Lu Ming waved his hand slightly, and the blood-red blade aura collapsed. This caused the two young men's expressions to change. The two young men's eyes turned solemn when they saw how easily the blade aura of the young man with the mole was shattered. Bloodblade Continent. Why are you here? Also, where are the geniuses of the divine wilderness continent? Lu Ming stepped forward, his eyes cold as he asked a few questions. Kid, go to hell and ask. The young man with the mole shouted coldly, his killing intent exploding. His blood chi soared into the sky, transforming into a huge battle saber. This technique was similar to the one practiced by Bloodsword 7 of the Heavenly Corpse sect, but the one practiced by the people of the Bloodblade continent was purer. Attack together. Chapter 949. Whoosh. Whoosh. 2 blood-colored astral sabers slashed down at Lu Ming with terrifying might. Lu Ming snorted coldly as he took a step forward and sent out 2 palm strikes. With 2 crisp sounds, the 2 blood-colored astral saber lights shattered. The 2 youths from the Blood Saber continent narrowed their eyes in shock. The 2 of them had used almost all their strength in the earlier 2 slashes. However, they were easily defeated by Lu Ming. Not good. It's a peak expert. Run. The black mold youth shouted as he turned and ran. The other youth did the same. They knew that they had met a peak genius of the divine desolate continent. Lu Ming snorted coldly and stepped forward. His body was like a ray of light as he caught up to the 2 youths and sent out 2 palm strikes. Although the 2 youths did their best to block, they still vomited blood and crashed into the ground, leaving behind a huge crater. Lu Ming landed and a powerful aura enveloped the 2 youths. He said coldly, "Speak. Where are the people of the divine desolate continent? Don't even think about it. If I speak, won't I still die? Since I'm going to die, I won't speak." The black mold youth revealed a crazed look. At the same time, a bloody light flashed as if the blood in his body was burning. He roared and turned into a saber light as he charged in a certain direction. The other youth also revealed a crazed look as he turned into a saber light and charged in another direction. "You're courting death." Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps and chased after the black mold youth. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, how fast could he be when using the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps? He caught up to the black mold youth in a few moments and punched, killing him. Following which, Lu Ming turned and charged at the other person. Kill. That person was incomparably crazy. Seeing that he could not escape, his eyes turned red as he charged at Lu Ming like a wild beast. However, the difference in strength was too great, so he was easily killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming frowned slightly. The cultivation techniques of the Bloodblade continent's people were tyrannical, and they didn't fear death. They were incomparably crazy. Lu Ming hadn't been able to get any information from them. The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared and devoured the essence blood of the 2 youths from the Bloodblade continent. Just now, the 2 of them headed north. Perhaps they'll find something there. With a thought, Lu Ming flew north. 1,000,000 miles to the north of Lu Ming, a great battle was taking place in a mountain range. On a mountain peak, light flickered. It was incomparably dazzling, and inscriptions filled the air. One after another, great formations appeared, forming a light shield that enveloped the mountain peak within. There were several hundred people on the mountain peak. All of them were disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect. A portion of them were sitting cross-legged, while the rest were continuously carving inscriptions around the mountain peak. The leader had a head of long silver hair and a pair of eyes. He was an illusion. With him as the leader, there were also Wen Yuzhong, Bai Kai, Shui, Ji Mai, and the others. Whoosh! Whoosh! Outside the mountain peak, blood-red saber light flashed. It was incomparably terrifying, as if it was going to split the heavens and earth apart as it slashed towards Huan Zhan and the others. The saber light slashed at the light shield, causing it to tremble continuously. Huan Zhan and the others' bodies also trembled slightly. There were more than a dozen people around the mountain peak, but a few of them had shocking auras that were incomparably terrifying. Every one of them wore blood-red robes and carried blood-red sabers on their backs. They were dressed exactly the same as the 2 youths from the Bloodblade continent that Lu Ming had encountered previously. Talisman Puppet sect, with your little strength, you can all die. A youth with blood-red hair said coldly. His strength was the most terrifying, and his aura was powerful. When he slashed out with his saber, the light shield violently trembled. Why are you so ruthless? Our Talisman Puppet sect has no intention of fighting with you for the last totem pillar, Huan Zhan said. Hihi, a bunch of flies. Looks like a hindrance. Moreover, you have quite a lot of luck points. You'll be a fat piece of meat if we snatch it. The youth with blood-red hair sneered. The other youths sneered as well. More than a dozen of them attacked together, slashing their saber light towards the mountain peak. Wen Yuzhong, Bai Kai, Shui, and the others trembled slightly. They had exhausted a lot of their mental strength. If this continued, their mental strength would be exhausted. Once they lost the protection of the formation, the disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect would only be tortured to death. The other party was too strong. This was only a portion of the people from the Bloodblade continent, but there were 2 people who were at the same level as Huan Zhan. Once the formation was broken, Huan Zhan could only block one person, but the other person could easily kill the rest. Moreover, the other youths were also extremely powerful. Some people revealed bitter expressions. The battle of karmic luck this time had exceeded their expectations. There were actually heaven's prides from other continents participating. It was even more dangerous than the previous battles of karmic luck. If things went wrong, the Talisman Puppet sect might be completely annihilated. Wait a moment. I'll inscribe a formation to block them with all my strength. Hurry up and leave. Huan Zhan suddenly transmitted his voice to Wen Yuzhong, Bai Kai, Shui, and the others. Senior brother Huan Zhan, we can't leave together, Wen Yuzhong hurriedly said. If Huan Zhan stayed behind to block them alone, he would definitely be in danger. That's right. If we leave together. If we stay together. The others also shouted one after another. None of you can leave. Blood God's blade wheel. Break. The blood-red-haired youth shouted coldly. An even more terrifying aura exploded from his body. A giant blood-red wheel floated above his head. This blood-red wheel seemed to be formed by countless blood-red battle blades. It spun rapidly and was as large as a mountain, crushing towards the light barrier of the mountain peak. Not good. Hold on. Huan Zhan and the others' faces changed drastically. The mental fire between their eyebrows flickered rapidly, constantly spreading out and surging into the surrounding inscriptions. Boom. The blood-red wheel heavily slammed against the light barrier of the mountain peak. The earth rumbled and the mountain peak shook violently. The light barrier that enveloped the mountain peak continuously shattered layer by layer. Huan Zhan and the others' faces changed drastically. Their bodies trembled and some of the weaker ones even spurted out a mouthful of blood. Those disciples who were sitting cross-legged or recovering from their injuries also stood up to help protect the formation. However, the blood-red wheel was too terrifying. It spun continuously like countless battle blades, constantly slashing at the light barrier. Bam! 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 The light barrier continued to shatter, and it looked like it was about to shatter completely. Release the puppets and use the inscription scrolls to open a path. Charge out! Huanzhen shouted. At this moment, with a boom, all the formations collapsed and the light barrier shattered. Numerous disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect released their puppets and surrounded everyone. At the same time, waves of inscription scrolls were activated. They either turned into defensive or offensive puppets as they all charged in the same direction. Trying to escape. All of you can die. The blood-red-haired youth controlled the giant wheel and pressed forward, causing countless puppets to explode. Dozens of blade lights slashed out, also attacking the puppets and the inscription scrolls. Although the Talisman Puppet sect had a large number of disciples, most of them weren't strong and were far inferior to the top experts of the Blood Knife continent. Among the dozens of disciples of the Blood Knife continent, the weakest was a prodigy at the 4th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Chapter 950. Damn it! Huanzhen and the others roared as they retaliated. However, the blood-haired youth had his eyes on Huanzhen and was using the huge wheel to suppress him. No matter how strong Huanzhen was, he could only barely protect himself. Haha, die. A skinny monk-like youth from the Bloodblade continent had an extremely nimble movement technique. He was like a nimble flying knife that constantly flickered as saber light swept out, shattering a few puppets and sending out a few bolts of lightning, killing a Talisman Puppet sect disciple with a single strike. Then, he took a deep breath and absorbed the blood of the Talisman Puppet sect's disciples through his nose. Ha ha ha, how delicious. Such blood chi. The skinny youth's face was filled with enjoyment as his gaze became even more sinister. Whoosh. Right at this moment, a spear ray tore through the sky from the south. It was extremely fast as it stabbed towards the skinny youth. What's that? The skinny youth was startled and immediately wanted to dodge. However, he discovered that he was completely locked onto by the spear ray. A terrifying killing intent enveloped him and he had nowhere to run. He could only use his full strength to resist. A terrifying blade ray slashed out from the skinny youth's hand, but when it collided with the spear ray, the blade ray shattered and the spear ray shot out and pierced through the skinny youth's throat. The skinny youth's eyes were wide open and filled with unwillingness before he died. Whoosh, whoosh. Over a dozen spear rays flew over from the distance and stabbed towards the Bloodblade continent's geniuses. Several miserable cries rang out as several experts of the Bloodblade continent were killed. Who? Damn it! The blood-haired youth roared as he controlled the huge wheel to block the remaining spear rays. The other geniuses of the Bloodblade continent were startled and they did not continue to kill the Talisman Puppet sect's disciples. Instead, they gathered around the blood-haired youth and looked in the direction of the spear ray. Huanzhen and the others did the same as they all looked in that direction. Who would come to save the Talisman Puppet sect? A blue-robed youth stepped through the air and appeared before everyone's eyes. Lu Ming, it's Lu Ming. Bai Kai Shui was the first to cry out. The one who had attacked earlier was Lu Ming, who had come all the way from the south. He had come all the way north and did not expect to encounter the Bloodblade continent's experts attacking the Talisman Puppet sect's disciples. Needless to say, the two youths from the Bloodblade continent had most likely come as reinforcements. Lu Ming isn't dead. Wen Yuzhong, Gong Fei, and the others were overjoyed. Previously, on Sky Poison Island, Lu Ming had gone all the way and hadn't returned. Later on, when the island was sealed by the poison gas, everyone who hadn't died had left Sky Poison Island. However, Lu Ming hadn't come out. When Yuzhong and Gong Fei thought that Lu Ming had met with an accident in the depths of the heavenly poison island and died. After they brought the news back, the Talisman Puppet cult disciples lamented, and Bai Kai and Shui cried a few times. Only now did they feel better. Unexpectedly, Lu Ming actually didn't die and even appeared at this time. Lu Ming, hurry up and leave this place. Bai Kai Snow's complexion suddenly changed, shouting loudly. Lu Ming, leave now. Wen Yuzhong also shouted. Although Lu Ming was strong, Lu Ming had easily killed several geniuses of the 4th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. This was enough to prove that Lu Ming's strength had improved again. However, they were definitely no match for people like the blood-haired youth. Their strength was enough to fight against the top 10 of the list of top 1,000 talents. Even Huan Zhen was at a disadvantage. Wasn't Lu Ming courting death by coming here? It's too late for you to leave now. You must pay with your life for killing my people. The blood-haired youth's voice was incomparably cold. A huge knife floated above his head, emitting a terrifying aura. It was a powerful secret treasure. Those who killed my talisman puppet cult disciples must all die. Lu Ming didn't retreat, continuing to walk forward step by step. His voice was even colder than the blood-haired youth's. Shameless boasting. I'll kill him. A burly young man stepped out. He was more than 2 meters tall and was 2 heads taller than Lu Ming. The muscles on his body bulged and he was filled with explosive power. He held a huge sword in his hand that was as big as a door and stared at Lu Ming like a wild beast. Swoosh! He held the sword with both hands and rushed towards Lu Ming, slashing down with his knife. The 6th level of Spirit Embryo Realm was this youth's cultivation. A dragon's roar rang out as Lu Ming exploded with a burst of dragon power. Scales covered his entire body as he punched out. Clang! The fist hit the huge knife, causing it to vibrate. Then, to everyone's horror, it collapsed, sending metal shards flying everywhere. Lu Ming didn't stop, nor did his fist. He continued to attack. Bam! The fist landed on the burly youth's body. The youth screamed as a huge hole appeared in his chest. He was killed instantly. The devouring power in his hand exploded, turning the burly youth into a dried corpse. So strong, Lu Ming Zongzi is so strong. A disciple of the Talisman Puppet sect said excitedly. A peerless prodigy of the 6th level of Spirit Embryo Realm was killed by Lu Ming with a single punch. What kind of battle power did Lu Ming have? Bai Kai Shui and the rest stared with their eyes wide open. Lu Ming's battle power is much stronger than 5 months ago, Wen Yuzhong said. Then can he be a match for those people? Bai Kai Shui looked at the blood-haired youth with a worried expression. I don't know. Wen Yuzhong shook his head. At this moment, the youths of the Blood Knife continent were all staring with their eyes wide open. The blood-haired youth's expression also turned serious. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. His battle intent was like a rainbow, and his killing intent was like a tide. His body was like lightning as he charged towards the youth of the Blood Knife continent. Let's attack together and kill him, the blood-haired youth shouted as he controlled the huge knife wheel to attack Lu Ming. Lu Ming's glabella lit up, and the mountain river diagram appeared. It grew rapidly and surrounded the huge knife wheel. The huge knife wheel kept spinning and attacking, but it couldn't break the defense of the mountain river diagram. Damn it, I can still kill you without the knife wheel. The blood-haired youth shouted coldly as he slashed out with the battle knife in his hand. There was another youth who was equally terrifying. He was at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, and his battle power was astonishing. He was no weaker than Devil Lord Luo Tian. Both of them were comparable to the top 10 of the list of top 1,000 talents. Roar! The bloodline of the 9 dragons appeared and roared. The devouring power exploded and enveloped all the youths of the Blood Knife continent. Those with lower cultivations trembled, and their eyes were filled with shock. The vital essence and qi in their bodies became unstable and were about to be devoured. Bam! Bam! Lu Ming blasted out 5 palms and 6 kicks in an instant, killing 5 youths of the Blood Knife continent. He also killed one with his shoulder. Lu Ming had fought with more than a dozen spirit gods for a long time on Sky Poison Island. In addition to the increase in his cultivation, his use of martial techniques had also improved greatly. Now, every muscle and bone in his body could use the Hell-Suppressing Heaven skill. Even his hair could use the Hell-Suppressing Heaven skill. With a flick of his hair, it contained the supreme power to suppress the 9th Hell Prison. Chapter 951. That was to say, Lu Ming was 30% stronger than himself before he entered the Sky Poison Island in a battle of the same level. Before he entered the Sky Poison Island, he definitely wasn't a match for the current him. In other words, his ability to fight those of a higher level was even stronger. Boom! Boom! Two loud sounds rang out. Only the blood-haired youth and the other two strongest experts were able to contend against Lu Ming. However, their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Lu Ming was actually able to kill other experts while fighting the two of them. His battle power was simply terrifying. Wang! Wang! Blade Qi soared into the sky as the remaining people unleashed their bloodlines. They were all blood-colored battle blade bloodlines, just that their levels were different. The blood-haired youth and the other youth had 6 golden chakras on their blades. 6th level divine level bloodline. The remaining people all had 5th level divine level bloodlines. The remaining people executed bloodline fusion at the same time, transforming into blood-colored battle blades with shocking blade intent. Lu Ming, let me help you. Huanzhen stepped into the air, and with every step he took, inscriptions would spread out in the air. No need. Help me hold the line and prevent anyone from escaping, Lu Ming said. This caused Huanzhen to be stunned. Was Lu Ming planning to leave all the people of the Bloodblade continent here? Wasn't he too confident? The other people of the Talisman Puppet sect also looked at each other in shock and anticipation. Such big words. Watch how I kill you. A furious voice came from one of the battle blades as it transformed into 1,000 meters long and slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's figure flashed and merged with the 9 dragons' bloodline. The 9 dragons' bloodline roared as it stepped out with its 9 claws. Boom! Boom! Violent energy bombarded over. Other than the 2 blood blades of the 6th level divine level, the other blood blades all exploded and returned to their human forms. They fell to the ground lifelessly. As for the 2 blood blades of the 6th level divine level, their blade qi collapsed and they were sent flying. The 2 of them were at the 7th level of the spirit embryo realm and were on the same level as Lu Ming. How could they be a match for Lu Ming? At the same level, Lu Ming had never met a worthy opponent. Not good, he's too strong. Let's go, split up. The crimson-haired youth's horrified voice came from a blood saber. Lu Ming's previous actions had far exceeded his expectations. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 2 blood blades fled in 2 different directions at high speed. Where to? In one direction, a formation appeared, and Huanzhen's figure suddenly appeared, blocking a blood saber. Out of the way! A voice came from the blood-red saber, and the saber light slashed toward Huanzhen. Huanzhen's silver hair danced in the wind, and silver light flashed in his eyes. Spell formations appeared around him, transforming into numerous silver swords that slashed toward the blood-red saber. Boom! Boom! The crimson saber couldn't break through at all. Lu Ming transformed into 9 dragons. The dragon claws stepped on the air and caught up to the other blood saber. The blood-red saber was transformed from the blood-haired young man. The 9 dragons clawed at the blood blade. Seeing that it couldn't escape, the blood-red saber roared and slashed at the 9 dragons. But under the 9 dragons' unstoppable dragon claws, the saber chi was shattered. Clang! Clang! The 9 dragon claws grabbed the blood-red saber and pulled with all their might. The blood-red saber shattered into pieces, and the blood-haired young man's figure reappeared in the air. At this moment, his face was filled with panic, and his eyes were filled with horror. The 9 dragons twisted their bodies and charged toward him. Even if you can kill me, I won't let you have it easy. The blood-haired young man revealed a ferocious expression as he charged toward Lu Ming without fear of death. It was a pity that there was a huge gap between his combat ability and Lu Ming's. It was not something that could be made up for by being fearless. In just a few moves, he was struck by Lu Ming into pieces and died tragically on the spot. Then, the dragon twisted its body and charged toward the last youth from the Bloodblade continent. The outcome was destined. With Lu Ming and Huanzhen, the young man was killed in a few moves. Not far away, the disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect were silent. Their eyes widened in shock. A group of powerful youths from the Bloodblade continent who had followed Lu Ming were killed in an instant. Among them, there were 2 overwhelming geniuses who were comparable to the top 10 on the list of top 1,000 talents. But even they were killed by Lu Ming. This was simply unbelievable. They felt as if they were in a dream. The disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect who had been with Lu Ming were more shocked, but those who hadn't seen Lu Ming since the Battle of Providence were even more shocked. Before the Battle of Providence, although Lu Ming was strong, there was still a huge gap between him and the top 10 geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents. Not many people thought that Lu Ming could compete with them. First, Lu Ming could kill them. After the shock, they were ecstatic. Lu Ming was a Zongzi candidate of the Talisman Puppet sect. The stronger he was, the stronger the Talisman Puppet sect would be. The Nine Dragons bloodline erupted with a devouring power and devoured all the true yuan and blood essence of the people from the Bloodblade continent. Now, Lu Ming didn't have to worry about using the Nine Dragons bloodline. After devouring, Lu Ming returned to his human form. Lu Ming, thank you so much. Huanzhen cupped his fists. His eyes were full of surprise. Lu Ming's progress was too great. This was the truth. When he first met Lu Ming, although Huanzhen was very polite, that was just his character. In his heart, he did not expect Lu Ming to be able to reach this stage. He also did not treat Lu Ming as a genius of his level. But now, not only had Lu Ming reached this level, his strength had probably surpassed Huanzhen's. You don't have to thank me. Fortunately, I'm not late, Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, where have you been all this time? Why didn't I see you? The other disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect also gathered around. Bai Kai glared at Lu Ming, her eyes filled with joy and resentment. Yeah, Lu Ming, our little Kai Shui has been very worried about you. She missed you so much that she didn't even eat or drink. Haha. Wen Yuzhong joked at the side. Senior brother Wen, you're talking nonsense. What does his life have to do with me? Bai Kai Shui stamped her feet and her face turned red. Haha, you're shy. Wen Yuzhong laughed. The others on the side also laughed. They were very relaxed after escaping death. Bai Kai Shui's face turned even redder. Even her neck was red and she didn't dare to look at Lu Ming. Looking at Bai Kai Shui's shy expression, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he knew something was wrong. This girl can't have fallen for me, right? Looks like I can't tease her in the future, Lu Ming thought to himself. What's wrong with the people of the Bloodblade continent? Why are we being attacked by the people of the Bloodblade continent? Also, how long is it until the 1-year period of the Battle of Providence? Lu Ming quickly changed the topic and asked. As he spoke, he refined the energy that he had devoured. Most of the youths of the Bloodblade continent cultivated the blood intent or the saber intent, which was useless to him. Lu Ming, there are only 5 days left until the 1-year period of the Battle of Providence. Illusion and Reality Dao. 5 days. I've actually stayed on the Sky Poison Island for more than 5 months. Chapter 952. Although he had guessed that he had spent quite some time on the Sky Poison Island, he hadn't expected it to have been more than 5 months. If he had been a little later, the battle of karmic luck would have ended. No wonder his cultivation had soared so much. It wasn't too fast for him to have risen by 3 levels in the past 5 months. After all, he had the bloodline of the 9 dragons. If he had fought the 3-eyed divine race outside, he might have risen by 2 or 3 levels. Lu Ming, you went deep into the Sky Poison Island and didn't return. The poisonous gas inside was too strong, and we couldn't enter. We were really afraid that something would happen to you. What happened to you on the Sky Poison Island? Wen Yuzhong asked. Lu Ming immediately told them about his encounter with the spirit gods of the 3-eyed divine race. Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder. Lu Ming had actually been attacked by a dozen spirit gods of the 3-eyed divine race on the Sky Poison Island and fought in his sea of consciousness for several months. In the end, his cultivation had improved greatly. It was truly miraculous. One had to know that after an ordinary spirit god lost their physical body, their spirit god wouldn't be able to stay in the world for long before dissipating. Only some unique treasures could allow the spirit god to remain. The totem pole on the Sky Poison Island was probably such a treasure. However, there was also something strange about it. The totem poles of the other 8 forbidden lands didn't have any spirit gods attached to them. Lu Ming guessed that it was most likely related to the Sky Poison Island. There wasn't a trace of poisonous gas in the cave. Instead, it was filled with spiritual energy and origin energy. Wen Yuzhong was good with words, so he began to explain what had happened during this period. About half a month ago, the 9 forbidden lands had all been cracked and the 9 totem poles had been obtained. Only the last totem pole was left in the three-eyed divine race's royal city. As long as they obtained the last totem pole, they would be able to open the ancient city of karmic luck. But at this time, the geniuses of another continent had appeared. They were the geniuses of the Bloodblade continent. As soon as the geniuses of the Bloodblade continent entered, they began a massacre. Many geniuses of the 4 overlord forces were killed. After the massacre, they knew that the geniuses of the Bloodblade continent were also participating in the Battle of Karmic Luck. They had also completed their previous mission. Their final goal was actually the last totem pole in the three-eyed divine race's royal city. If the Bloodknife continent obtained the totem pole, they would be able to open their ancient city of Providence. Whichever side obtained the last totem pole would be able to open the ancient city of Providence. Those who did not obtain it would be considered a failure. The geniuses of the Bloodknife continent were very powerful. They were even slightly stronger than those of the Eastern Barren Territory. Most importantly, the geniuses of the Bloodknife continent were very united. They seemed to be from the same faction. On the other hand, the 4 overlords of the Eastern Wilderness were too scattered. Thus, they suffered a crushing defeat at the beginning. In the end, the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, and the Sky Demon Valley had joined forces. Only then did they have the strength to contend against the Bloodblade continent. As for the Talisman Puppet Sect, they were directly excluded by the 3 great powers. Rejecting the Talisman Puppet Sect's participation was very obvious. They wanted to borrow the hand of the Bloodblade continent to completely destroy the Talisman Puppet Sect. The people of the Talisman Puppet Sect had been hiding under the lead of Huan Zhan and the other Zongzi candidates. But they were still found by the Bloodblade continent 2 days ago, which led to the previous battle. Sigh, it's a pity that Guan Dao, Liu Song, and the others all died in battle. Wen Yuzhong sighed. Guan Dao and Liu Song were the top 100 geniuses of the Talisman Puppet Sect on the list of top 1,000 geniuses. They were also one of the 13 Zongzi candidates. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the people of the Talisman Puppet Sect and realized that many of them were missing. Out of the 13 Zongzi candidates of the Talisman Puppet Sect, only 6 were present. 7 were missing. And there were only slightly more than 300 people of the Talisman Puppet Sect present. Are these all that's left of the Talisman Puppet Sect? Lu Ming asked. Almost. Even if some of them are still in the ruins, there are definitely not many of them. Wen Yuzhong sighed. The other disciples of the Talisman Puppet Sect were also dejected. The Talisman Puppet Sect had sent a total of about 1,000 people, but now there were only about 300 of them left. It was an extremely heavy loss. One had to know that these were the elites of the younger generation of the Talisman Puppet Sect. In every battle of Providence, there would be a large number of geniuses who died in battle. However, in every battle of Providence, the various factions would send all of their geniuses into the Battle of Providence. This was because once someone obtained a great opportunity, all the sacrifices would be worth it. For example, Bai Kai Shui had obtained the Martial Emperor's inheritance this time. Even if a few hundred people died in battle, it would be worth it. The Martial Emperor's inheritance was extremely precious. Not only could it provide the Talisman Puppet Sect with many different formations and inscriptions, but Bai Kai Shui's future was limitless. Even if she couldn't reach the Martial Emperor's height in the future, it would be worth it as long as she could become a Martial Emperor. Let's leave this place first. I'm afraid that the other geniuses of the Bloodblade continent will soon know that a genius of the Bloodblade continent has been killed. When that time comes, we will be in real danger. Illusion Reality Dao. That's right. Wen Yuzhong nodded. All of you, enter the mountain and river diagram. Lu Ming waved his hand, and the mountain and river diagram flew towards Lu Ming. As for the saber wheel, it had lost its master and remained motionless in the air. Lu Ming casually put it away. Illusion Reality and the others had long heard that Lu Ming had a treasure like the mountain and river diagram. They were overjoyed when they heard this. As long as they entered the mountain and river diagram, Lu Ming could bring them to a place by himself. The people of the Bloodblade continent would definitely not be able to find them. Immediately, the people of the Talisman Puppet sect were sucked into the mountain and river diagram. Lu Ming put away the mountain and river diagram and turned into a beam of light, leaving this place. In a valley millions of miles away, Lu Ming appeared and released the people of the Talisman Puppet sect. Some of the disciples who were injured began to treat their injuries. Those who weren't injured began to carve formations in the surroundings. There were only 5 days left until the 1-year deadline. They no longer planned to search for any more opportunities. They just needed to wait for the last 5 days to pass. Right now, the geniuses of the Bloodblade continent and the geniuses of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the 3 great forces should be near the Monarch City, waiting for an opportunity to seize the last totem pole, right? Lu Ming asked. That's right. There are still 5 days left. They will definitely make a move during these few days. Otherwise, they won't have a chance. If they don't seize the last totem pole, then the luck points they obtained during this period will be wasted. The top geniuses will definitely be unwilling to accept this. Illusion Reality nodded. Actually, the Bloodsaber continent and the 3-party alliance had already attacked Royal City in the past. However, there were extremely formidable existences in Royal City. They were experts that were infinitely close to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm, and they were experts that could charge into the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm at will. Last time, such an expert had made a move and forcefully advanced into the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm, and he killed a few formidable geniuses from both sides. However, in the end, that expert from the 3-eyed divine race exploded apart and perished. He should have been suppressed to death by the laws of heaven and earth of this world. When Yuzhong explained, Lu Ming nodded. It was normal for the 3-eyed god race to have such existences. The spiritual god realm experts that Lu Ming encountered on the Sky Poison Island were all old men of the 3-eyed god race who were nearing the end of their lifespans. They had no choice but to take a risk and try to break through to the spiritual god realm. In the end, they were suppressed. Chapter 953. Such existences were extremely powerful, and ordinary members of the 3-eyed divine race couldn't compare to them. Because anyone who could break through to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm was a genius among geniuses. The foundation for human cultivators to break through to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm was to awaken a God-grade bloodline. Without awakening a God-grade bloodline, there was a 99% chance that one could break through to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm. Only those who had awakened a God-grade bloodline were qualified to break through to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm. However, that was merely the qualification. In order to truly break through to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm, many who had awakened a God-grade bloodline would fail. Of course, the higher the grade of the God-grade bloodline awakened, the higher the success rate. Domain Enlightened Spirit Gods had a lifespan of 5,000 years. How many Domain Enlightened Spirit Gods had accumulated over the past 5,000 years in the Eastern Wilderness? Very few. How many of them had awakened a God-grade bloodline in this generation of young people? There were 300 on the list of top 1,000 geniuses alone, and there were also new geniuses. If those with God-grade bloodlines could break through to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm, then there would be hundreds of them in this generation. How could that be possible? Even if this generation was a golden age, it would be very good if there were 100 or 200 people who could break through to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm. Many God-grade geniuses might not be able to break through to the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm. So, it could be said that those that were capable of breaking through into the Domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm were geniuses amongst geniuses, and their strengths were extremely formidable. With such existences residing in the royal clan of the 3-eyed divine clan, it would absolutely not be so easy for these two powers to seize the final totem pillar. Lu Ming, are you going to fight for the last totem pole? Asked Huan Zhan. A trace of a smile appeared on the corners of Lu Ming's mouth, and he said, "Why not? Perhaps I'll be able to benefit from their fight. With your combat strength, you might have a chance. Unfortunately, I was injured in the previous battle, so I can't help you," said Huan Zhen. "There's no need for that. I'm just going to take a look. It's easier to hide alone. If there's a chance, I'll wait for an opportunity to make a move. If not, then forget it," Lu Ming said with a smile. Huan Zhen pondered for a moment, and then an inscription talisman scroll appeared in his hand. He handed it to Lu Ming and said, "Lu Ming, this is a unique inscription talisman scroll I obtained. If you activate it with your spirit fire, it will be able to form 8 people who look exactly like you. And of the same aura of the same. Maybe it will be of help. Lu of the enlightened spirit gods of spirit god." This kind of inscription talisman was very precious. It could actually condense 8 people with the same aura as oneself. This could definitely save one's life at a critical moment. This was obviously a treasure that Huan Zhen had obtained in this battle of luck. Lu Ming was very grateful that he was willing to give such a treasure to him. Huan Zhen said with a smile. He was extraordinarily handsome. This was a handsome man that could make women jealous. "Then I'll go to King City. If there's anything, you can contact me at any time," Lu Ming said. He looked at Bai Kai Shui not far away and turned to leave. "Lu Ming," Bai Kai Shui called out from behind. "Miss Bai, don't worry. I'll be fine." Lu Ming smiled. He didn't say anything and headed towards King City. "Why did he call me Miss Bai? Didn't he call me Kai Shui before?" Bai Kai Shui looked at Lu Ming's departing back, lost in thought. There are rumors that Lu Ming started the Battle of Nine Dragons City because of a woman. Could that woman be Lu Ming's lover? Thinking of this, Bai Kai Shui sighed, her eyes a little sad. A beam of light cut through the sky, crossing 100 miles in an instant. Soon, Lu Ming returned to the territory of the three-eyed divine race's King City. He engraved an array formation to conceal his aura, and then continued forward. Soon, a magnificent city appeared in front of him. This was the King City of the three-eyed divine race. On the tall and magnificent city walls, there were three-eyed divine race soldiers patrolling day and night. Last time, when 2 sides of prodigies rushed into the King City, the three-eyed divine race's defense was even stricter. "I'll wait here. I reckon that the 2 sides will attack in a few days." Lu Ming hid in a secret place, watching the King City from afar. 1 day, 2 days, time passed day by day, but the 2 sides didn't attack. Obviously, both sides had the same idea. They were waiting for the other side to attack first so that they could reap the benefits. On the last day, both sides finally couldn't hold back and attacked almost at the same time. From the north and south of King City, there were more than 100 beams of light that rushed towards King City. Both sides sent out more than 100 people each. Each of them was a prodigy among prodigies, extremely powerful existences. Enemy attack. Suddenly, a shocking roar came from the three-eyed divine race's King City. The entire King City erupted with powerful auras. "Kill!" Shouts shook the heavens. More than 100 people from the north and south rushed into the King City like a sharp knife. Every one of them was a prodigy that could kill opponents that were several levels higher than them. They were extremely powerful, especially top-notch prodigies like Luo Tian. They were extremely powerful and could easily kill those at the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm. Brilliant lights shone. Even though there were many people from the three-eyed divine race, they were all killed in an instant. The people from both sides rushed towards the center of King City. The few people in the lead are so powerful. Lu Ming watched from afar, and his gaze froze. In the north was the allied army of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Heavenly Corpse Sect, and Sky Demon Valley. The few people in the lead were extremely powerful. When their attacks exploded, those in front of them were killed instantly. A golden-robed youth with a golden crown on his head had sword chi that soared into the sky. With a slash of his sword, those in front of him, no matter if they were at the 9th or 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, were all killed in one move. Lu Ming even found a powerful existence with a perfected spirit embryo that was killed in one move. Powerful, extremely powerful. This person's temperament is somewhat similar to defy's. He should be the Emperor God, the top prodigy of the younger generation of the Eastern Wilderness human tribe. He is ranked first on the list of top 1,000 talent. There was a glint in Lu Ming's eyes and a strong fighting spirit burst forth. The Emperor God was also the descendant of martial Emperor Di. However, he was terrifyingly talented. Some people said that the Emperor God's talent was not inferior to martial Emperor Di's when he was young. Beside the Emperor God, Heavenly Corpse Sect and Sky Demon Valley also had powerful prodigies. In the south, Bloodknife Continent also had prodigies who were at the same level as the Emperor God. In just a few minutes, they had broken through various obstacles and were about to kill their way to the center of King City. "How dare you barge in? You're courting death." Suddenly, a loud roar erupted from the center of King City. Then, a beam of light flashing with lightning struck toward the Emperor God. The Emperor God slashed out with his sword and destroyed the beam of light. However, his body was also blocked. Then, several beams of light burst out in succession, shooting toward the north and south. Bloodknife Continent and Eastern Wilderness were both under attack. "There are indeed old men like you. You block the other members of the three-eyed divine tribe. The few of us will seize the totem pole," the Emperor God's voice rang out. Then, he and the strongest prodigies of the Heavenly Demon Tribe and Heavenly Corpse Sect charged forward. They seemed to have met their match. In King City, Sword Chi soared into the sky, and saber light shattered the sky. Chapter 954. Looks like there are still people who are about to break through to the Spirit God realm in the capital. Otherwise, no one could stop the Emperor and the rest. Lu Ming's gaze moved, and he revealed a smile. Since the other party was strong, it gave him a chance. Lu Ming transformed into a phantom and rushed towards the capital. First, he rushed from the north, the Emperor, and the God Palace. Along the way, he didn't meet any obstacles. The three-eyed god race was attracted to the center. Along the way, he saw many corpses of the three-eyed god race. Swallow. Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons bloodline and started to swallow crazily. Of course, he couldn't be bothered to swallow those whose levels were too low. He swallowed the corpses of the three-eyed god race that were at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm and above. The corpses of the three-eyed god race turned into dried corpses. Along the way, he swallowed more than 30 corpses at the 7th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, a dozen at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, 5 to 6 at the 9th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, and even 1 at the perfected level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Their blood essence and energy were extremely abundant. Since both parties are still fighting, I'll find a place to refine. Lu Ming rushed into a small room and entered the mountain river diagram to refine the energy he had swallowed. Roar. Not long after, the 9 dragons let out a long roar, and another chakra appeared on the foundation of the 5 golden chakras. Bloodline of the 6th level of the God realm. The 9 dragons' bloodline finally rose by another level, reaching the 6th level of the God realm. With the rise of the 9 dragons' bloodline, the speed of refining energy increased by several times. Rumble. In his body, the vital essence rumbled and was incomparably majestic. The spirit embryo was continuously condensed and slowly shrunk. There seemed to be a powerful existence being nurtured in the spirit embryo. After an hour, all the energy in his body was completely refined. Peak of the 7th level of spirit embryo realm. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Previously, his cultivation was at the early stage of the 7th level of spirit embryo realm. Now that he had reached the peak of the 7th level and had swallowed so many powerful three-eyed god race, Lu Ming was a little surprised that he hadn't broken through to the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Instead, he had some breakthroughs in his conception. After exiting the mountain river diagram, there were still rumbling sounds coming from outside. It seemed that the battle was still going on. It's been more than an hour and the battle is still going on. Seems like the Emperor and the rest have met a strong opponent. I'll go take a look. Lu Ming carefully left the room and rushed towards the center of King City. His speed was extremely fast. He retracted his aura and constantly flickered in the dark. Almost no one noticed him. In the center of King City, there was a huge square. In the middle of the square, there was a stone pillar with various carvings on it. It was a totem pillar. Meanwhile, intense battles were taking place all around the square. A vast aura filled the air. 2 of them were extremely robust, and they were over 10 meters tall. The aura they emanated was practically at the domain enlightened spirit god realm. Monarch God and 2 other powerful youths joined forces to fight a 3-eyed divine race. As for the powerful youths of the Bloodblade continent, they joined forces to fight against the Flashing Eye race. Even further away, countless 3-eyed god race beings were attacking the other geniuses. The totem pole was right in front of him, but he couldn't take it. This is my chance. Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and the bones in his body changed, transforming into a different appearance. He took a step forward and charged forward. Kill. One of the 3-eyed god race beings noticed him and chopped at Lu Ming with his axe. Lu Ming punched out and killed that 3-eyed god race being. When the people from Monarch God Palace, Sky Corpse Sect, and Sky Demon Valley saw Lu Ming, they thought that he was one of their geniuses and naturally didn't stop him. Bam! Bam! Lu Ming killed several 3-eyed god race beings and executed the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. His body flashed rapidly like a ray of light, passing through the battlefield and approaching the battlefield where Monarch God and the rest were fighting. He didn't stop and directly charged towards the totem pole in the center. Ant, you're courting death. The 3-eyed god race being who was fighting Monarch God and the rest was extremely powerful. The 3rd eye between his eyebrows shot out a dazzling beam of light that pierced towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. His body flashed continuously and retreated 100 meters to avoid the attack. Monarch God and the rest also looked at Lu Ming. They frowned. Lu Ming's appearance was very unfamiliar, and his aura was completely restrained. Which force was he from? He actually wanted to seize the totem pole by himself. You want to seize the totem pole? Wishful thinking. The tall and sturdy 3-eyed god race being roared. However, as he roared, he spat out a mouthful of blood. There seemed to be an invisible force between heaven and earth that was pressing down on him. In this world, the 3-eyed god race beings can't break through to the spiritual god realm. He forcefully entered the spiritual god realm and is suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth. He's about to die. Monarch God roared and fought with all his might. These 2 3-eyed gods had forcefully entered the spiritual god realm and were suppressed by the laws. They couldn't unleash the strength of a spiritual god realm expert at all. Otherwise, no matter how talented Monarch God and the rest were, they wouldn't be a match for a spiritual god expert. The gap between a spiritual embryo and a spiritual god was too great. It was difficult to surpass because a spiritual god was a peerless genius. I can only use the inscription talisman. Lu Ming's gaze flickered, and the inscription talisman that Huan Zhen had given him appeared in his hand. As soon as he opened it, his spiritual energy suffused out. The inscription talisman lit up, and Lu Ming's body was suddenly covered by a formation. Then, his body trembled and actually split into 12 Lu Ming. There were a total of 13 Lu Ming. Of course, once he used the inscription talisman, he returned to his original appearance. However, the 13 Lu Ming's appearance and figure were exactly the same. Even their auras were the same. This is a good chance. Charge. Lu Ming was overjoyed. With a thought, the 13 figures split up and charged towards the totem pole at extreme speed. At this moment, the 3-eyed god race was stunned. Monarch God and the others were stunned as well. Lu Ming, it's him. Monarch God shouted coldly as he recognized Lu Ming. Damn it. The 3-eyed god race roared, and a beam of light shot out from between his eyebrows, hitting one of the Lu Ming. That Lu Ming's figure kept flashing as he dodged the light beams. The 3-eyed divine race kept shooting out light beams from their eyes. After much difficulty, they finally hit their target. That Lu Ming collapsed, but the other 12 continued to charge forward. Humph, don't even think about it. Monarch God and the others also attacked, not wanting Lu Ming to seize the totem pole. On the other hand, the Bloodknife Continent and the 3-eyed Divine Clan who were fighting with the Bloodknife Continent also took action to stop Lu Ming. The people of the Bloodknife Continent did not want Lu Ming to seize the totem pole even more. However, they did not know which one was Lu Ming's real body, so they could only attack randomly. The remaining 12 Lu Ming's figures kept flickering, dodging the attacks and approaching the totem pole. Peng! Peng! With so many experts blocking Lu Ming naturally could not dodge all of them. He was constantly hit, and his body collapsed one after another. However, in the end, there were still 2 bodies that rushed to the totem pole. Ah, damn it, no! The youth of the Bloodknife continent shouted crazily. Monarch God and the others' eyes lit up. They were not too excited. No matter what, Lu Ming was from the Eastern Wilderness. If he seized the totem pole, he could still help the Eastern Wilderness open the ancient City of Fate. As for the luck points, they could get them in the ancient City of Fate. Chapter 955. Rise. The 2 figures of Lu Ming hugged the totem pole at the same time and roared. With a boom, the totem pole was pulled out by Lu Ming. The moment Lu Ming pulled out the totem pole, a beam of light descended from the sky and landed on Lu Ming's body. The attacks from all directions were all blocked by the beam of light. At this moment, the people of the three-eyed divine race, Di Shun, and the others did not attack Lu Ming. No. The geniuses of the Bloodknife continent roared unwillingly and attacked Lu Ming crazily. Unfortunately, no matter how they attacked, they were all blocked by the beam of light. Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, beams of light descended from the sky and enveloped the youths of the Bloodknife continent. Then, amidst their unwillingly angry roars, the light flashed and the geniuses of the Bloodknife continent all disappeared. Obviously, they had failed and were teleported out. Boom! At this moment, the totem pole in Lu Ming's hand trembled violently and flickered with light before flying into the sky. Then, Lu Ming realized that the other totem pole in his storage ring had also flown out of his storage ring and into the sky. As for Di Shun and the others, totem poles also flew out of their storage rings. The most shocking one was Di Shun. 2 totem poles flew out of his storage ring at the same time. Millions of miles away from Royal City, a fatty was carrying a huge axe. Beside him was a beautiful girl. The 2 of them were casually walking in the sky. It was Fatty Kong Jin and Ruan Tingting. Suddenly, Fatty's expression changed. A totem pole flew out of his storage ring. The totem pole glowed and pierced through space, flying into the distance. In the next moment, Fatty finally reacted and let out a shrill scream. My totem pole. It was not easy for him to obtain a totem pole, but it had flown away on its own. He quickly flew in the direction of the totem pole. Rumble. The sky above Royal City trembled non-stop as totem poles gathered one by one. Soon, all 10 totem poles had gathered and formed a strange arrangement in the sky. At this moment, the battle in Royal City stopped. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the sky. Boom! The totem poles gathered together and emitted a bright light that soared into the sky. The space was hit by the light, and a huge hole was torn open. From inside, one could see a huge ancient city. In the Eastern Wilderness, the upper echelons of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, the Sky Demon Valley, and the Talisman Puppet Sect all gathered at their respective ancient teleportation grounds. This was the entrance to the Battle of Providence. The Talisman Puppet Sect, by Shijin, Du Songjue, and other high-ranking doyens, as well as some powerful elders, were all gathered near the ancient stone in the area. It's almost a year's time. I wonder if the ancient City of Destiny will open this time. Du Songjue let out a long sigh. It wasn't easy to open the ancient City of Providence. Most of the previous wars of Providence failed to open it. The number of times it could be opened was limited. Hopefully, it can be opened. However, I'm afraid that the disciples of my Talisman Puppet Sect will be in danger as well. Bai Shijin also sighed. The other doyens also sighed. They were also conflicted. After the ancient City of Destiny opened, they would enter the final battle. This was an opportunity for the disciples of the Talisman Puppet Sect, but it was also very dangerous. Without strength, they would only be killed by others. At the same time, they thought of Lu Ming. Their goal for Lu Ming was to rank first on the list of top 1,000 talents. However, They also knew that it was too difficult to rank first on the list of top 1,000 talents. Most importantly, Lu Ming had too little time. Before participating in the Battle of Providence, Lu Ming's combat strength could at most compete with the top 100 geniuses. However, the top 100 geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents were each more powerful than the last. It was too difficult for Lu Ming to catch up with those geniuses in just a year. After all, if he improved, those geniuses would also improve. They didn't have much hope in their hearts. Time passed slowly. Suddenly, the stone shook and emitted a bright light. It's open. The teleportation formation is open. This means that the ancient city of destiny is open. Bai Shijin and the others were overjoyed. Let's go in and enter the ancient city of destiny, Du Songjue shouted. Everyone stepped out and walked into the teleportation formation. At the same time, in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Heavenly Corpse Sect, and Sky Monster Valley, an ancient stone also emitted light. The higher-ups of the three sects stepped into the teleportation formation and disappeared. In the eastern wilderness, above a barren mountain, there was an earth-shattering roar in the endless void. Wind and clouds gathered, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Suddenly, the endless void cracked open and a huge space crack appeared. Then, an ancient city emerged from it. This ancient city was more than 10,000 miles long and wide. In the middle of the ancient city, there was a huge fighting ring made of a strange metal with strange patterns on it. Around the fighting ring were rows of seats in a circle. There were many rows of seats, like a coliseum. Sitting on the seats, one could watch everything that was happening on the fighting ring from above. On the north side of the fighting ring, there was no spectator stand. Instead, there was a long staircase that extended from below to the fighting ring. Suddenly, 4 black vortexes appeared in the sky above the spectator stand, and figures emerged from them. In one of the vortexes, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the other founding elders of the Talisman Puppet Sect appeared. On the right side of the Talisman Puppet Sect, there were figures with corpse chi and ghost chi. They were the higher-ups of the Heavenly Corpse Sect, and they were all powerful existences. Among them, there was a tall figure that was shrouded in corpse chi. It was impossible to see his appearance clearly. His aura was not strong, but it gave people a huge pressure. The Corpse Emperor of the Heavenly Corpse Sect. Seeing this figure, Bai Shijin and the others narrowed their eyes and became solemn. The Corpse Emperor of the Heavenly Corpse Sect was an Emperor Realm expert, and he was as famous as Emperor Di. This time, even the Corpse Emperor had appeared. It was clear how much importance they attached to this Battle of Providence. Fortunately, the ancient city of destiny had a huge suppressive force, just like the entrance of the Battle of Destiny. The older one was, the stronger the suppressive force. Even an Emperor Realm expert would be greatly suppressed here, and he would not be able to display much of his combat strength. Therefore, they were not too worried. If they were outside, the Corpse Emperor alone could kill them all. On the right side of the Heavenly Corpse Sect, another group of people appeared. They were the people of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The patriarchs of the 6 ancient clans were among them. There were also a few people who had a powerful aura. They were obviously people on the same level as the patriarchs of the 6 ancient clans. The patriarchs of the 6 ancient clans were not the only ones in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. However, Bai Shijin and the others ignored them and looked at a middle-aged man in a purple gold robe. Emperor Di. Bai Shijin and the others were shocked. Chapter 956. Martial Emperor Di was famous in the Eastern Barren region. He had created the Di Tian Divine Palace and made it the strongest human force in the Eastern Barren region. He was very famous and powerful. Some people called Martial Emperor Di the strongest martial emperor in the Eastern Barren region. Even the Corpse Emperor was weaker than him. Moreover, Bai Shijin and the others knew that Di had killed Liao Kang. They hated and feared Martial Emperor Di. When Martial Emperor Di appeared, he looked at the Talisman Puppet Sect like 2 sharp swords. Although Martial Emperor Di was suppressed here, he still gave off a great pressure. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, Meng Chong and the others' faces changed. They felt like a huge rock was pressing down on their hearts. Only one person looked at Martial Emperor Die calmly. Yang Kuangtu. Yang Kuangtu had also entered with the people of the Talisman Puppet sect. Yang Kuangtu's forehead flashed and Nine Suns' sovereign walked out. After a year, Nine Suns' sovereign's soul was much more condensed than before. It was almost materialized. His soul was strong and his soul was stable. He looked at Martial Emperor Die. Martial Emperor Die's eyes emitted a bright light and a strong murderous intent. Although he did not say anything, it was clear. Mph, do you think hiding in the Talisman Puppet sect is useful? The Wang clan leader looked at Yang Kuangtu and the others and said coldly, your Talisman Puppet sect will be destroyed because of this sooner or later. I wonder how many people from the Talisman Puppet sect will come to the ancient city of fortune in this battle of fortune. Don't let them all die. The Jiang clan leader said coldly. Don't worry, the disciples of the Talisman Puppet sect will have their own opportunities. Bai Shijin said in a deep voice. It's useless to be stubborn. Soon, you will see the reality. The Wang clan leader said coldly. This time, Bai Shijin and the others did not reply. It was useless to say more. Die, I don't know what you are thinking. You have two powerful disciples and grand disciples, but you don't want them. I'm jealous. At this moment, a voice came from another direction. It was a woman's voice, but it was charming. It made people's heartbeat quicken and their hearts tremble. Everyone looked at the source of the voice. Over there, demonic aura surged into the sky. The demons of the Sky Demon Valley had arrived. Among them was a woman who looked to be around 30 years old. She was wearing a thin veil that revealed her devilish figure. Her appearance was so beautiful that it could turn the world upside down. Any man who saw her couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. Her every move, every frown, and every smile was filled with endless temptation. Demon Emperor. Central's heart trembled. The Demon Emperor of the Sky Demon Valley was said to be a nine-tailed fox, a pure-blooded nine-tailed fox. The pure-blooded nine-tailed fox was a divine beast. Although it wasn't particularly strong among the divine beasts, it was still extremely terrifying. Today, the three supreme existences of the Eastern Barren Territory, Emperor Die, the Demon Emperor and the Corpse Emperor, had all arrived. It was a grand occasion that was rarely seen in 1,000 years. The number of sovereigns in the Eastern Wilderness could be counted with one's fingers. Every one of them was a supreme existence. There was no doubt that Emperor Die, the Demon Emperor and the Corpse Emperor were the strongest existences among the sovereigns. Even though the Demon Sky Emperor was also an emperor, he was weaker than the three of them. Back then, the Demon Sky Emperor had only stopped Emperor Die's clone. Now, it was obvious that Emperor Die's real body had returned from the ocean. In comparison, the Talisman Puppet sect was too weak. Mph, just a pair of evil disciples. Don't laugh at me, Demon Emperor. Emperor Die said coldly. Are they really evil disciples? Why didn't I hear the rumors say so? Die, you took the bloodline of the 9 sons and the blood essence of the 9 dragons. What do you want to do? I'm very curious. The Demon Emperor smiled slightly. His smile made many people's hearts beat faster. They were shocked and quickly looked away. They didn't dare to look at the Demon Emperor anymore. This was because the people present had high cultivation and had cultivated for many years. The weakest among them was an expert of the spiritual god realm. If those young people saw this, they would probably lose their minds and be unable to extricate themselves. Emperor Die's eyes flashed and he didn't answer. The Demon Emperor looked at Die and smiled. No one knew what he was thinking. Then, the place fell into silence. Everyone's eyes fell on the stairs. In the three-eyed divine tribe's monarch city, everyone looked at the sky and the huge thing that had appeared. Is that the ancient city of fortune? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Buzz. Suddenly, pillars of light appeared from the ancient city of fortune and landed on the young geniuses who were participating in the battle of fortune. At this moment, no matter where they were, no matter which relic they were in or which forbidden area they were in, as long as they were not dead, a pillar of light descended from the sky and enveloped them. Then, the space trembled and they disappeared. In the monarch city, the geniuses disappeared without a trace. It was the same for Lu Ming. As the light pillar vibrated, his figure disappeared from sight. In the next moment, Lu Ming found himself on a huge platform. Light flickered around him and figures kept appearing. Lu Ming saw the arch-god and the other elites of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, the Sky Demon Valley, and the Talisman Puppet Sect. Quan Zhen, Wen Yuzhong, Bai Kai, Shui, and the others were all there. When they saw Lu Ming, they all smiled and walked over. The geniuses of the 4 overlord forces gathered together according to their forces. Lu Ming, are you okay? Quan Zhen walked over and asked. I'm fine. This time, I really have to thank you for the inscription scroll. Lu Ming smiled at Quan Zhen. Without Quan Zhen's inscription scroll, Lu Ming might not be able to seize the last totem pole even if he used all his strength. If he used all his strength, others would definitely stop him. How could he seize the totem pole? He used the inscription scroll to catch them off guard and seize the totem pole. Oh! Quan Zhen's eyes lit up. Lu Ming said so. Did he succeed? Lu Ming, Wen Yuzhong, Bai Kai, Shui, and the others all came over to greet Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded and responded to them one by one. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, I knew you would be fine. With a loud laugh, Fatty walked over with his axe. Ruan Tingting walked side by side with Fatty. Fatty, Tingting. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Since the beginning of the Battle of Providence, Lu Ming had not met Fatty and Ruan Tingting. To be honest, he was quite worried that something would happen to them. Now that he saw them, he was naturally happy. Lu Ming, Tingting was worried that something would happen to you. I knew it. How can those trash do anything to you? Fatty grinned and glanced at Emperor God Palace and Sky Monster Valley with disdain. Before entering the Battle of Providence, these 2 forces wanted to kill Lu Ming without mercy. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.